All right, on behalf of Veterans in Politics International, I want to thank you all for coming today. I just want to give sort of the basic ground rules. My name is Brian Shapiro. I'm a radio talk show host here in town. It's an honor for me to be here. Just to give you a brief overview, we'll start by having the panel members give an introduction of who they are, about 30 seconds or so. Then the candidates will be giving about 1.5 minutes to introduce themselves and why they're asking for our endorsement. Please keep in mind, it's not a debate, it's an interview, so no candidate can ask each other questions. Once a panel member asks you a question, you'll be given 1 minute to answer their question. I'm not going to be rude and stop anybody mid-sentence, but please keep the time constraints in mind. Panel members, you need to ask a question within the preview of which the office of the candidate is seeking. Your question needs to be direct and to the point, and try to be as brief as possible, because as you can see, we have a lot of candidates here today. I would also advise being direct and asking one candidate. If we ask a question to every candidate, that's going to take about 30 minutes, so we probably don't want to do that here. At the end of the question and answer portion, each candidate will be given 1 minute to make a closing statement. So let's start with the panel. Panel members, please introduce yourself and give a brief description of who you are.
Hi there. My name is Stephanie Phillips. I have lived in Las Vegas nearly 30 years. I'm a mom. I have 2 kids. They're 17 and 20. I'm the owner and broker of Cambridge Realty, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Steve, for sponsoring this and bringing us all together.
Frank Friends. I'm a father and a family court activist involved in family court and local politics.
My name is Rob Lauer. I enlisted in the U.S. Army at age 34, became military police in the Iraq War, and served, and now I'm a political reporter here for the last 6 years. I have a news outlet called 360 News, about 7 million views a year. I also report for the Nevada Globe, and that's it. Thanks.
My name is Jeffrey Black. I've been in Las Vegas, Nevada for 35 years. Came here through the military. I was stationed at Nellis Air Force Base. I'm currently working for the Department of Family Services as a child development specialist.
Hi, I'm Paul Jackson. My military service was in the Royal Marines in 4-1 and 4-2 commando units. I did serve with an American unit on a flat top called Guadalcanal. I'm a political consultant. I'm on campaign 39 right now. At present, I work for the state GOP. I'm the director of volunteer engagement for the state. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jim Jonas. I am the director of Veterans in Politics, and I'm also the co-host for our podcast. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Talicia Sandoval. I spent the later half of my youth growing up here in Las Vegas, Nevada. I am currently a college student at UNLV, looking to be a lawyer eventually, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michael Broadway. I'm a senior member to Veterans in Politics, as well as a real estate broker in Nevada and Arizona. And as well, I am with Veracoin, which is one of the sponsors here behind you. You see those signs. And that's on the Bitcoin thing with NFTs and mortgages. We're kind of in a niche. And I also own the domain cryptorealty.com, which will be coming soon.
My name is Leonard Carnelli. I'm a 25-year retired police lieutenant from North Las Vegas. I'm the current president of Fraternal Order Police Lodge 443 and the former president of the Police Supervisors Association. I've been friends with Steve for many, many years, and I'm proud to be here.
Thank you, panel. Okay, candidates, try to keep it around 1 minute or so if you can. We'll start right here and go all the way down. Please introduce yourself, and you'll have about 1 minute.
I'm Tom Heck. I'm running to be the next governor of the great state of Nevada. I'm an Air Force Academy grad. I spent 23 years in the Air Force, and I worked 9 years for a local government. I'm running to be the next governor of this great state for one simple reason. Career politicians have failed us over the last 40 years, and given the opportunity, they will fail us again and again. Why do we think career politicians will come up with creative solutions to fix what career politicians have broken and destroyed? I'm the unique candidate, and I have a proven record of producing successful outcomes. I'm the guy that get her done. So I encourage you to look at me and see that I am a unique candidate that will revolutionize government and politics in Nevada. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm William Doc Walls. I was born and raised in Chicago. Graduated Horace Mann Elementary, Chicago Vocational High School, Tuskegee University, and IIT Chicago Kent College of Law. In 1986, I graduated law school, but prior to that, I served as top assistant to Harold Washington, who was the first progressive mayor of Chicago. I served as national political director to Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Push, and I served as a top assistant to Ed Vidoliak, who was the chairman of Illinois' Republican Party. I'm running for governor because I'm the only candidate for governor who can unify the state by promoting cultural and diversity and sensitivity amongst people of all ages, races, socioeconomic backgrounds, all religious persuasions, all sexual orientations, all physical and mental disabilities and limitations. I'm the candidate for governor who can help to unify this state, but also bring this state into diversity in terms of its economy.
Hello. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the veterans and Politics International for inviting me here today. As far as Steve Sampson, thank you so very much. And also, I'd like to tell you a little bit about me in bio. My name is Barack Silberberg. I'm running to become the 31st governor of Nevada. And the reason why I'm coming out in this sense is that where our country is going and heading and where our direction of our state is heading, we need new ideologies, visions. We need an entrepreneur in positions of leadership. And we need a different direction. And that's why I've come out, because I love this country and I love the great state of Nevada wholeheartedly. I love the people here and I love all the veterans here that stand in the forefronts of our freedom and our Constitution. And for us to be present here today and capitalize and do the things and the functions and the opportunities that we have here in our great nation. Thank you so very much.
My name is Ed Bridges, and I want to thank the Vets in Politics and all of you for coming today. Welcome. I am a member of the Independent American Party. I am running for governor to fight for your rights. We are a Constitution-oriented party. We defend the Second Amendment. We oppose abortion, etc. I'm here to fight for your right, even if it's government to government. If we have ignorant, rude, and corrupt politicians or a corrupt government, it's because we put them there. It's the people. It's not the government, it's the people in the people, as President Bradford explained. Thank you very much for the invite.
Good morning. My name's Monique. I'm a Vegas native. I'm a mother of 3 boys, a small business owner. I am not a politic. I am simply running for governor out of faith. We need to rewire Nevada, and to do so, we need women and men of faith in office.
Good morning. My name is Joey Gilbert. I'm a father first. I'm not a politician. I'm a businessman, entrepreneur. I was also in the military. I was in the Air Force Reserves. I had the pleasure of doing 3 USO tours over to Iraq and Afghanistan to visit our troops. I'm an attorney who understands the law and also understands some unique aspects in the law that are problematic, especially the family court system, which is something I would be focusing on. I've been fighting for almost 24 months now to get Nevada back open for our freedoms, our God-given constitutional rights. For those that don't know, I'm chairman of the board of America's Frontline Doctors, and I've been suing on behalf of the military to prevent this vaccine from being mandated. I'm an FOP attorney. I was with the NAPSA, Nevada Association of Public Safety Officers, and my #1 priority and why I should be elected governor is to fix these broken schools. That's, I think, what is our most important priority. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is John Lee. I've been in Las Vegas 60 years. My family came here when my father transferred to the United States Air Force here. I have been married 47 years. I have 7 children, 30 grandchildren, one great-grandchild. I have a lot of skin in the game here. I served in the Assembly for 6 years, the State Assembly, I'm part of the State Senate for 8 years. And each of those times I would go back to my companies. I was never a full-time politician. I would do public service, go back to work. But when I took over the mayorship of North Las Vegas, I had to sell my companies. The city was in such dire straits. I would not let North Las Vegas fail. It was a city I grew up in. And so I sold my companies, and for 8 years I've been the mayor there. We have fixed North Las Vegas. I'm glad to tell you that our whole county is in a better situation, North Las Vegas being healed. Thank you.
Thank you, and good morning. It is a pleasure to be here. I want to thank Veterans in Politics for putting this panel together, and there's so many of us, and there's some that I haven't even met yet, so it's good to see everybody that's part of this race. I'm Dean Heller. I'm running for governor. I served in Congress for 12 years. I was a senior member of the Veterans Committee on the Senate side. And I passed over 100 pieces of legislation while I was in Washington, D.C., but the priority that I had was for veterans. And I have dozens of pieces of legislation that I passed specifically for the veterans here in Nevada, across this country. To name a couple, I passed the Stolen Valor Act, making it a federal crime to lie about receiving military medals. I passed legislation to allow Gold Star wives to receive the 9/11 GI Bill benefits, and I was the chair of the 21st Century Veterans Benefit Delivery Act. And it used to take years if you had a benefit issue and you wanted to get into the system. I put together a committee, and we were able to reduce that by 80%, the amount of time it took to get through the VA. So anyway, thank you very much for having us here. I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you.
My name is Bradley Beck. I'm born and raised in Southern California, and kind of was booted from there when the cost of living went up, and in a sense forced to move to Laughlin, Southern Nevada, and I've been there for the last 3 years. So I bring kind of a unique perspective here, in that I'm not a business owner, I'm not a millionaire, I'm just a regular guy. I've had regular jobs. My degree's in geology, and I worked for the oil industry and was laid off in 2014, actually became homeless for a couple weeks. But slowly but surely, I've kind of worked my way back, and I'm now a homeowner here in Laughlin. But I'm also a disabled veteran and had to go through that entire process. So I know what it takes to, get treatment from veterans hospitals, and to pursue, trying to get a disability rating from the Veterans Administration. So I know a lot of the problems that veterans face.
Good morning. Eddie Hamilton. I'd like to thank a veteran politics. Hope to earn your endorsement today. I am a Trump Republican. I'm the only Trump national delegate in this race. There's so many of us running on the Republican side. So to remember my name, if you go vote, I have a $10 bill right here. Bring a $10 bill. My name is on the $10 bill. Eddie Hamilton. I'm running to be the first ever state militia governor of Nevada. That is permitted in the state constitution and the NRS Title 412. So state militia is the nuclear option against the communist Democrat. Legacy politics won't cut it. You got to go state militia. Thank you. Eddie Hamilton.
Hi, my name is Guy Nora. It's spelled G-U-I, pronounced Guy. I'm running for governor. I've been a businessman my whole life, my whole career. Never been a politician before. I think it's all about problem solving, and that's what you need in your governor. I invested in life sciences, so I really know a lot of the issues that our veterans go through with regards to health. Both physical as well as mental. I have never had the pleasure of serving this country, but I was in a war at 15 in Lebanon on behalf of the Christian militias. So I know a lot of what you have all been through. Thank you.
All right, thank you, candidates. Now it's the portion where the panel will be asking questions. I ask that you direct a question to one candidate if you can, because there's so many people here. Who would like to ask the first question?
Would you like me to go first? Yes.
I don't think I'm allowed to ask questions. I would love to. That's not my
All right, I'll start it off. My question is for Mayor Lee. I was going to ask you why you spent your entire time as a legislator as a Democrat and then recently changed to Republican, but I have a better question. This state has what's called the Heart and Lung Bill, and police officer and firefighters if they develop a disease of the heart or the lungs while they're a police officer or firefighter, it is a legal standard that it's because you are a policeman or a firefighter. However, in this state, I have many friends who have tried to retire or get compensated under heart and lung, and in this state, it gets tied up for 3 or 4 or 5 years, and many times it's denied, even though it's legitimate. Division of Industrial Relations is kind of the overseer of the program. And my question to you, Mayor Lee, is if you become governor, what do you plan to do to help out the police and the firemen who have developed these diseases? And in some cases, some of my friends have passed away before they got a chance to get their compensation. And I think the system is broken. And what would you do to fix it?
Thank you, Mr. Carnelli. And you did serve our city well for 27 years. In the legislature, that bill is in place right now to protect and to preserve the life of those people who put themselves in harm's duty for the residents of this state. I fully agree with that bill. I've never seen it changed in all my years in the legislature. Now, if you're saying administratively things aren't working for you, then that would be something that we should look into, because if it is earned, then it's deserved. And so I would just tell you right now, as a legislator, that bill was in place and it's sacrosanct. So I would continue to keep that. But in specific cases come up, Mr. Carnelli, I could understand you reaching out to, or whoever reaching out to me to take a look at that for these well-deserved men and women in the fire department, police department. Thank you.
Frank, go ahead.
Yeah, this is actually for all the panel, but it's a yes or no answer. CCW holders in the United States are the subgroup that commit the least amount of crime, even from police officers. CCW holders commit less crime than cops do. So everybody goes against the 2A thing with it not being a well-regulated militia. Would you be for or against, yes or no, with people who have CCWs and teachers who teach CCWs starting a well-regulated militia as part of their CCW holdership? Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Sure, not for constitutional carry though. Above CCW on constitutional carry. You're talking about concealed weapon permit?
Yes, being allowed to be a member of a well-regulated militia. It would also count as a well-regulated.
I need to know what the heck you're talking about by a well-regulated militia before I make any
decision. Well-regulated militia.
Be against that. We have a National Guard. I spent 10 years in the National Guard.
Okay, so no.
I would probably have to say if it's just a yes or no question.
Okay.
Eddie Hamilton, I will be the first ever state militia governor. So I will support that one because I have my militia force to go to the southern border to protect
let's try
Arizona.
to be brief. Go ahead. Yes. Okay, next question. Go ahead.
So this question is for Joey Gilbert, John Lee, Dean Heller, and Guinora specifically because of their experience. And I wanted to find out, during the shutdown, we lost 40% of our employees, and Dieter failed to get them unemployment for some cases for over a year. At the same time, we were hit with huge amount of fraud. How would you specifically have dealt with the failure of Dieter? How would you have cleaned it up? How would you have dealt with it during the crisis?
It's very simply, it all comes down to accountability. When things weren't working, it was the governor's job to take a look at what was going on. If he needed to put together a task force to address it, it should have been done so immediately. The entire pandemic response from this governor was ridiculous. It was abhorrent. Things happened that should have never happened. Freedoms and constitutional rights were infringed upon, but those that were in the most need of help were not helped. And I would have put it together, a task force immediately addressed that and made sure those people got taken care of right away.
I'll add on top of that, when the governor realized what he had done and Copeland was here, he actually sequestered himself in the governor's mansion for 6 months and didn't do a dang thing. He could have cared less about these people. Now, it's Dieter the issue. It's still an issue. Something happens today. Your DMV department is being run just as poorly. Your wildlife commission is being run just as poorly. We need to fix this state in a lot of departments, but you bring up a point that's still not fixed, Dean, Robert.
Well, first of all, Robert, it doesn't happen. And the reason it doesn't happen is I wouldn't have shut down the state. I wouldn't have shut it down. We wouldn't have had 40, 50 people, percent of the people here in this state unemployed. Buck stops with the top. very top. So if we got a problem with these agencies, and Dieter's one of them, it stops with me. Job is to go after them, make sure that we get the right people in there to do the job. But the bottom line, I wouldn't have shut down the state, so we wouldn't have had that problem.
So, so I come from the public, from the private sector. People will be fired. There have been 3 people at Dieter that have been fired by the time this thing would have gotten done, because I need a solution for you as soon as possible. And the fact that I did not have a solution means they're out of there. It's very simple. And if the person at the top is the person that's paying attention, guess what? Everybody pays attention all the way down in an organization. And that's what would have happened in my administration.
Next question. Go ahead.
I have a question for all of you.
Eddie Hamilton here. The Republican caucus has a $40 million reform to revamp Dieter, the unemployment. That's what we should pass. The Democrats were against it. Let's not fool ourselves. You can't fire state employees.
The question was not directed to you. I apologize to interrupt, but the people that are here will answer questions based on who they want to ask the question to. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you for that. Hey, Joey, this question is for you, and it's just more to clarify. I was watching an interview with you. Since your focus is specifically on education, other things, but education being number one, can you explain what you meant by vouchers are different than school choice? Does that mean you're against school choice, only vouchers, or could you just clarify that?
At the end of the day, the public school system, if they're not forced to compete for students, they have no incentive to improve. And so while I think school choice is great, it's not going to fix things because you're still trapped in the same broken system. You just might be at a school that's a little bit better, maybe a little bit less violent, maybe the test scores, but you're still trapped in the same type of curriculum, same type of issues we're seeing with, indoctrinating, curriculum that have no place. And I'm for parental rights on the medical decisions of their children and the curriculum that their children are learning. So vouchers for me is something I would make available to any and all parents that want them, because until public schools, like I said, are forced to compete for students, they'll never improve.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'd like to ask a similar question of John Lee and Dean Heller. Where do you stand on school vouchers or school choice?
Thank you. In North Las Vegas, since I've been mayor, we have more pro-career schools, private schools, and charter schools than we've ever had before. The residents of our city demand education, and they're going to get it with this mayor, and they have received it already. I believe that when you pay taxes, you should get services for your dollars. The Clark County School District is too big. I'm all about breaking it up into 6 districts right now. One major district that'll take care of the buildings, it'll take care of maintenance, it'll take care of buses, it'll take care of food. But we need to have districts that are there for the education of our children. We need to have professional development for teachers. We also need to have retain and recruit good teachers into our community. We need to have a governor who will make that a priority, and I promise you, I will make that a priority.
I stand up every time. My dad was a veteran, and he says, when you're talking to a group, you have to stand up. And if you ever come to shake my hand, I'll always stand up to shake your hand. So anyway, always remember my philosophy. It's more, higher, less. I always want more competition, higher quality at less cost. And that's why I support school choice. I think parents must and will be involved in their children's education if you have a voucher system. I support that. We have 2nd graders that can't read, 3rd graders that can't write, and 4th graders that can't do arithmetic because the governor shut down our schools for a year and a half. A year and a half. If a parent can decide where their child goes, whether it's homeschooling, whether it's a charter school, whether it's a private school, those dollars follow that child. The more that parent is involved in that child's education, the better that child will be off.
I have a question for
we're going to go to her first, and then we'll go to you, Stephanie. Go ahead.
No worries, Stephanie.
Yeah.
To double down on the issue of COVID, I wanted to ask the position, especially from Mr. Gilbert and Mr. Heller. What will you do to reverse the wrongdoings of our current governor? Because I know what you would do if you were in that position, but now we're talking about you being in the future position and now reversing the effects of what Mr. Sisolak did.
Well, first, I mean no disrespect, not standing up, just trying to keep things moving along. Very simply, there should have never been a single mandate. Mandates aren't laws. They have no place in America. So I would immediately make sure any mandate is removed. Anybody that suffered because of the mandate would be rehired, or at least have their job re-extended to them if they wanted to take it back. But we'd have to be bold in making sure we address those that were harmed. And again, removing all mandates. And again, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I was in the military. I've had every vaccine known to man. But it's got to be freedom of choice. This is America. Mandates aren't laws. Put it to the people. Let them vote on it. So we'd immediately do away with all mandates. We would look at things. You're obviously paying people to stay home. Things that this governor did to absolutely destroy this state. We don't close businesses. We don't close schools. We don't tie doctors' hands. And we'd make sure that a real leader makes sure that the power restored to the people as soon as possible. And that's what we would do, is we'd restrain any future governor from doing what this guy did.
Letitia, we have a governor that has put, Talisha, sorry. We have a governor that has put Nevada at the top of every bad list in America. And it's unemployment rates, graduation rates, crime rates, suicide rates, all of that because he shut this government down. And he shut this state down for 1.5 years. Can you imagine serving half your term, your first term, and you have shut children out of their schools? Now, obviously, jobs are an issue. Taking a look at our tax structure, especially the commerce tax, I would look to repeal that. We got to look at schools, making schools better. And obviously, we talked about vouchers. But crime rates also. This is all about shutting this state down. Our crime rates went through the roof. We have a higher murder rate here in Nevada than they do in Guatemala. Here in Las Vegas, it's worse than Guatemala. This is what our governor has produced. And these are the changes that have to happen to get Nevada back on track.
Thank you.
Stephanie, go ahead.
Thank you.
Stephanie, go ahead.
I have a question for all of you guys. These are yes or no, so it'll be quick. Do you believe that the 2020 election was stolen and riddled with fraud? And if you do you support a full forensic audit of that election if you're elected?
Yes, and I would audit 20 and 22, and then every election thereafter, because in the military we always did lessons learned, and that came from an audit. We called it after action report. You basically review what you did, so you can determine where you came short, and then you determine how you can be effective in the future at the next election, so you don't have those same mistakes or problems.
No, I don't believe that the election is
Yes, I believe it was. Absolutely. And I believe the legitimacy of our elections are there, unfortunately.
Sorry, can we get a microphone over there so we hear these guys?
Joey, there's another one next to you guys.
Keep one in each day.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead and start over.
Yes. I believe we all should vote with U.S. passports. And we are U.S. citizens. And
do you believe the election was stolen?
Yeah, absolutely.
You do?
Stolen. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just afraid that this election will be stolen as well. Just telling you right now.
Do you support an audit?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
Go ahead.
Stolen may be a strong word, but I believe there were indiscretions, and I think our state Secretary of State has indicated that. And yes, I would vote for identification, proof of citizenship. That's our right.
Yes and yes.
As I said, yes, 100% and 100% to a full audit, forensic audit.
I also feel the same way.
I was Secretary of State here in Nevada for 12 years. I'm the only Secretary of State in Nevada's history to do a forensic audit. And we will have more forensic audits if I'm governor.
Absolutely not.
The answer is yes and yes. That is the reason I'm running as the state militia governor. That is the nuclear option against the Democrats. You cannot, with the Democrats in there, you will not get an audit. Only a state militia can do it because a state militia governor can set up a JAG, Judge Advocate General, that will prosecute, indict, impanel grand jury. Thank you. Answer is yes and yes. Eddie Hamilton.
I don't know, and yes, we're going to fix it.
I'm just going to make a brief statement. As the job of a moderator, it is not my job to ask questions, and it is also not my job to be opinionated. But I believe it is my job to separate fact from fiction. The facts are Joe Biden is the president of the United States, and there's absolutely no evidence of widespread voter fraud. Next question. Next question.
Remove him. He's unfair. Get rid of him. He's not a voting member anymore.
Next question.
Hi, I have a question that I want to.
Okay, that wasn't a question, sir. Next question.
I have a question that I want to direct to William Walls, Mr. Walls. According to the Nevada Homeless Alliance, Nevada has the highest rate of unsheltered, unaccompanied youth in the nation. What legislation would you present to get our homeless children their basic needs?
You get a microphone?
Yeah, keep one at each table.
Thank you for that question. As governor, one of my main objectives would be to end homelessness. I want to make certain that no child goes to bed hungry or homeless. As I travel the state of Nevada and as I travel right here in Las Vegas, I see homeless people sleeping on the streets, and I'm certainly concerned about what's happening in Ukraine, and we want to make certain that we give humanitarian aid and take care of those citizens who are fighting for their lives. But we can't forget about those that are right here in the state of Nevada who are homeless, not of their choosing. The important thing is we have to have legislation that ensures that we develop communities, tiny houses, that enable people a place to live and sleep and grow. We have to make certain that we are proactive and not reactive, not reactionary. Here in the state of Nevada, if we commit to ending homelessness, we can enable legislation that will do just that.
Yes, I'm wholeheartedly like to rectify the homeless situation here in our great state of Nevada. We have 80,000 homeless, and every day it's growing, day after day after day. First off, our rents, our landlords, I'm a landlord as well, they're increasing the rents by folds, by double. Is that fair? Somebody as far as pays $1,000 and all of a sudden 30 days before his expiration on the lease, he sends them a letter for $1,800. That's $800 more that they have to pay. So it's your choice whether you can pay it or you have to be out in the street, unfortunately. And that's where everything boils down. Now, I will put a cap of 10%. So you can only raise up to 10% cap so that we alleviate that problem of the homeless. Secondly, we will have facilities, we will well the homeless in traumatization and as far as mental illness and in all aspects and ways, and we're gonna put them and infiltrate them back into our communities, back into the military, and back into everyday functions like all of us that serve our communities. And that's what I'm gonna do as governor, wholeheartedly. And I'm going to use nonprofit organizations. I'm going to work very close with nonprofit organizations. So we are not as far as tabbed with the bill as taxpayers. Thank you so very much.
It was just William. Yes.
Next question. Go ahead.
Okay. So, you guys, everybody up here was talking about schools and vouchers and things like that. And my question was going to go to Mr. Ed, Miss Richardson, and Joey. It's going to go to you three. My daughter is a mixed race child, very gifted, 99.9% of the U.S. nation. She's in the top of the top. She can't get into any special programs because me and my wife both work. She doesn't receive a secondary credit for being on food stamps or being a family under $50,000 in this lottery system that they do. It's not based on merit. Would you get rid of the lottery system and use a merit educated test system to allow the children who are gifted to go to those programs?
I would say probably the direct answer to your question is yes, but education is a parent's responsibility, not the state's. Read our U.S. Constitution. There's not a word in there about us, the people, giving it and consenting to that power that they educate our people. So it's not the responsibility of the government, it's the responsibility of the people.
I would support because you're gifted and you come from a family that's pretty much well off doesn't mean you don't qualify for certain aspects. So I would say yes and support it.
Yes, absolutely. The whole participation trophy and, sequestering people or deciding based off anything other than merit is ridiculous. And those that are performing at the top should be given the opportunity to do more. And, if they're gifted, absolutely.
All right, next question from the panel. Go ahead.
This question is for Monique Richardson and Tom Heck. The system that we have for orphaned or children without parents in this state essentially puts kids in foster homes, but a lot of those kids then because of behavioral problems, go to group homes. Children graduating from our system are 50%, within the first 2 years, 50% of them end up homeless, and at least 50% end up in trouble or contact with the police. Among the girls who are released from the system, 60% are pregnant within the first 2 years. This is a horrible situation, and I would like to find out if you have any ideas as to what we can do about it and what you would do as governor, since you have several bills that you can put forward, or BDRs, which you can put forward, which then can become law. Thank you.
Go.
This is an issue that is very important to me. My former wife worked in Health and Human Services, and they faced this problem. It's a problem of education. Similarly, for those special needs kids is what they're called, is the same thing happens for kids leaving high school. You have got to, over the years, require kids to go to school to learn how to do their finances, to learn how to set up utilities. You've got to set up programs early to do that. But also, you've got to help these kids because most of them have attachment disorders, meaning that, first off, they're one family, and I bet you if you talk to them, they've probably been to 3, 4, 5, or 10 families. So it's a teaching issue, and it's also helping them work through their issues so that they understand and can be productive members of society. And the same thing with the girls and the men. You've got to educate them on birth control. You got to educate them on personal responsibility. And you got to also teach them how to find a job. And if you don't teach those things, why do we expect? And basically, first off, Health and Human Services has 3/4 of the Nevada budget. And second off, we send these kids out on their own, and and Health and Human Services washes their hands of these kids, and they're on their own.
Our goal and responsibility is to provide a superior.
Sorry, the question was for Monique Richardson. It wasn't for everybody.
To start, first, once we put children in home, we need to verify that the parents or the caregivers, they're actually capable of taking care of the child. Hopefully they have some kind of counseling background or intuition that will let them know that this child needs more than just a home. And once they're in a home, we need to make sure that they're safe, they're taken care of. Weekly visits is a must, so we need to put all that in place and just rebuild the whole thing to start.
Okay, question.
This is for everyone. We have a serious crime issue here. We have repeat offenders who've committed 16 felonies and are allowed out on bail, commit more crimes, shootings. Is it time for a 3 strikes law in Nevada? Yes or no? You can start from everyone.
No. Please, sir.
Okay, everyone's going to get a chance.
Yeah, just use the mic. Go ahead. Repeat.
Yes, absolutely. Put the criminals in jail.
No, we don't have to be soft on crime, but 3 strikes and you're out is not the answer.
Please define the 3 strikes for me.
Really simple. In California, they took away the discretion from judges and district attorneys and said if you committed your third felony, you automatically had a 25 to life sentence on the third serious violent offense.
What type of instance are you talking about? Are you talking about a murder case? Or are you talking about what type of case are we talking about?
A violent felony, armed robbery, kidnapping, assault with a deadly weapon.
Felony. Okay. Oh, felony. Yes. I see. Well, as far as I wouldn't be certain in regards to that question. You know, it'd be as far as according to the circumstances of what the person is acquitted for. And then as far as I'm concerned, whoever murders and whoever that murders somebody, then they should be sentenced to the death penalty, in my opinion. We don't need to waste $50,000, $60,000 in housing a scumbag over in the jail cell.
Thank you, sir. Let's
give
move on
it to our children. Our children's
Let's give other people an opportunity. Go ahead.
Rob, I'm not an advocate of government setting hard and fast rules. That takes away the role of a judge. A judge can wield yes and no's, etc., in accordance with the local community.
I would say no. I really believe in rehabilitation, even though it may be often that they commit these crimes. I still believe if they're in jail, they're in prison, they need to be rehabilitated before they're released. And if they're released, they need to have guidance with their parole, probation, wherever the case they may be. They need to continue on that journey without just putting them out in the world.
I would say that we need to do something. Nevada is experiencing a crime surge like we've never seen. Twice the national average in violent crime, twice the national average in property crime, a 30% increase in carjackings, 110% increase in homicides. We need to do something, but as a criminal defense attorney, you want to see stuff done on a case-by-case basis. It should just be automatic, and at the same time, 25 to life. A lot of times people are overcharged. I know what this system can do to people, but I don't want to take anything away from my esteemed colleague here because he mentioned it, but the governor's at fault for not vetoing some of these bills that went through with no cash bail and other things. So I would just say something needs to be done, but at the same time, we need to protect our communities, protect our business owners, and protect our tourism.
I completely agree too. North Las Vegas used to be number one in crime in this whole state. We are now number 4. We're behind Metropolitan Police Department, we're behind Reno, and we're behind Sparks. We take crime serious in North Las Vegas. The governor is responsible for setting the pattern of what's going to happen. What those crimes could be, the 3 strikes route, should be discussed. I will tell you, though, as a governor, I will be responsible to make sure that you feel safe at home, and I will push the legislature to do things that are right. If they don't, then we'll veto those bills. But we need to go back to a society that expects its police to be able to be policemen and our judges to be able to judge people appropriately.
I'm supported by the Nevada Police Union in this race because the blue will always know that I have their back. I believe in swiftness of justice. I think if someone commits a crime, they know that they're going to be in jail the next day. The person that should be on the panel here up front in front of you is the sheriff of Clark County. He should be talking about the person that turned this county into a sanctuary city, the person that practiced catch and release, the person that talks about defunding the police. This is why we have the crime problems that we have here in this county, and it's time for a governor to change that.
So I think I'm against the 3-strike rule because, you're talking about serious penalty or felonies. So if you're talking about murder or armed robbery, that person should be in prison in the first place. I mean, why would somebody be out after 2 murders or 2 armed robberies? So you're talking about the criminal justice system, as a base that's failed us in a sense. I think we need to look at where those problems come from, though. I mean, we're talking about more crime, more theft. Now people are starting to drill into people's gas tanks. The reason being is because people don't have money. They don't have good jobs. They don't have good housing. Those are the basis for the problems that we have. You have to look at the base for the problem, not, adding more police to just put people in jail. You have to look at why these crimes are being committed in the first place.
Eddie Hamilton, thank you for the question, Rob. I ran for governor once before against Brian Sandoval, and I came in second. So I've been all over the state in the last few years. When the three-strike law was popular 30 years ago, I was extremely for it. I'm anti-crime. I support the death penalty. But in the last 30 years, the three-strike is not working well. Number one, we got to build millions of jail cells to do this. So I'm against it right now. We got to do rehabilitation. And three-strike was popular 30 years ago, but I'm not sure right now.
Yeah, I'm a businessman, and we try to solve the issues at the time that they occur. Okay, so something that happens 20 years ago, same issue, could be very, very different today. My feeling is that when that issue becomes top of line, we, all of us, as governors and mayors and AGs and DAs, everybody that's involved in this process has got to get together and fix whatever issue is happening right here, right now. So to me, it's let's change the paradigm of government. Instead of this one problem that happens and we worry about, we live with it for the next 30, 40 years. No, let's deal with the issues right now. What's the weak link today? Fix it. Weak link in crime today is, let's say, three-strike, we fix it. 30 years ago it was, we fixed it. That's how we do things. We work right then, right there. I will be there for you at all times to solve these problems.
Okay, next question. We're going to go right over there.
So my question is for Mr. Walls and also Mr. Zilberberg. First, Mr. Walls, you said that we don't have to necessarily be soft on crime, but that 3 rules is not something that you support, or 3 strikes you're out is not something that you support. So at what point would you support that? 10, 15? How many mistakes does somebody have to make in order for them to learn from these mistakes? And Mr. Zilberberg, are you aware that the death penalty costs much more in taxpayer dollars than it does to house somebody in prison?
Go ahead.
Our responsibility is to provide a superior. Well, the first thing that we have to do is establish irreproachable public safety services, not just in terms of the policies, practices, procedures, equipment, training, deployment, response time, and overall deployment, but also in terms of making certain that we adequately equip our police department to deal with crime. You can't be reactionary. You have to be proactive when it comes to policing. And simply instituting a blanket rule like 3 strikes and you're out. A person could have committed a crime when they were 10 years old and it was a felony, or 15 years old when it was a felony, or 30 years old when it was a felony.
Yeah, that's not how that works.
Let him answer the question.
Yeah, and I'm going to answer the question.
It's not a debate.
The crime could have been committed. The crimes could have been committed over an extremely long period of time. That doesn't mean that that person is a habitual criminal. And you don't know what the circumstances were of that crime. So to offer a blanket rule would be counterproductive in our society.
And I understand that. I understand that. But as somebody who is very young, I'm 19 years old. I don't see myself making a mistake like that and then repeatedly making a mistake like that. There's no excuse for behavior like that.
We have different people in our society who have different circumstances, and some of them happen to be veterans as well. So we can't just offer a blanket rule and think that one size fits all. It has to be an intrinsic system that looks at individuals' responsibilities and their roles in crimes. You can have a woman, for example, who was under the control of a man, or vice versa, and they committed a crime and it wasn't something that they were inclined to do. So you can't just have a blanket rule saying 3 strikes and you're out.
Yes, in response to the death penalty, as you mentioned, now we have to set a stance of a certain point here, a threshold. And by presenting a threshold and a stance and a position of some sort that there is consequences if you go ahead and you intentionally kill someone, which today we have cell phones and everything is documented and everything is interpreted. So, and in the court of law as well, our judges, there's many corrupt judges here in Nevada as well. We have to revamp our judges. Totally corrupt. But let's go back to, let's not go on a tangent here. My interpretation is when there is consequences and there's a set example of the consequences, there will be no more murders because you know the consequences of what you are to do and what are the consequences. So Given in fact that someone is sentenced to a death penalty and is shown on national TV, okay? And the circumstances of it, we won't have any more murders.
Thank you, sir.
No longer.
Okay, let's go to Stephen. I believe Stephen's.
Oh, yeah. Good morning to the panel. My question here is for Mr. Gilbert, Mr. Lee, and Mr. Heller there. And we've seen the power of the parental voice, and many of us in here are parents. And we've seen a lot of these states, administrations, school boards trying to silence the voice of the parents. And in that movement, we saw like a tidal wave come of Virginia, flip Virginia completely for the red, into the red. Either the governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general in that state. The people were just sick and tired of being silenced. Sorry about that, sir. Parents' Bill of Rights have come forth in Florida, Indiana, and Kansas. It's a big movement. In Virginia, said we flipped, nearly took New Jersey as well. This, what I'm saying is, like, education policy and curriculum should accurately reflect the values of Nevada's families. Where do we fall by having parents more involved and in charge of their children's education and putting aside controversial topics that are being brought forth in the classroom and, of course, with the school board itself? Thank you.
Could you repeat the question?
Yes, on the Parents' Bill of Rights, CRT being taught in the school, Parents' Bill of Rights, their voices, with the parents being able to speak up, their voices not being silenced by the school board, also too having a say in their child's education as well here with the schools themselves, because we saw the changes that occurred in these other states, which can also too occur here with the parents once they start speaking out and have enough is enough.
Sure, absolutely. So it would be in full support of a Parents' Bill of Rights. I actually got into this race for governor because I was hired by a group of parents to fix the schools and could not believe that we could not move forward. What we learned over this course of the last 2 years, parents being shut out of the process, not being given an opportunity to speak. You know, at the end of the day, CRT is a buzzword. It's scratching the surface. There's much more complicated things like restorative discipline, credit recovery, absenteeism, and drug use. And so we need to address the problems at the foundation. A lot of people need to be removed. We have to build this thing over from scratch. But parents should make the medical decisions for their children and decisions for their children's curriculum, period. There should be no question about that. And this should never happen again, what's happened the last 24 months in this state. And if I'm governor, it will never happen again.
Ditto me on that, but that's not really where the problem is. The problem is with our governor today. If you look at our education system, if you look at the Board of Regents, you look at the Clark County School District, you see things that are going on there. We are not that little community anymore that we were 20 years ago, but we're still treating it and acting like that. Political people, political consultants like to put people on board so they can have control there. They like to put a governor up there so they can get their clients appointed to those boards. We need to go out here and fix these things. We need to get professionals on these boards, business people, families, smart people who care more about education than a political pull-up and a way to make more money off the system. So I would tell you that our system needs to mature. We need to get rid of people who are doing things for their own purposes. We need a governor who's going to start taking control of that and start putting people on boards who will fix the systems, because we can't be on every board. We need to make sure we have a governor who puts those people on boards to help us.
Well, thanks for the question. And I had an opportunity to talk with Glenn Youngkin about his race and the fact that it was a D+10 state, we're a D+5, and he will tell you that it was all about education and it was all about parental involvement in Virginia that changed that race. There's a woman here by the name of Erin Phillips, Power to Parents. That's a great program here. And it is something that I support, that I endorse, and we need more programs like that here in the state of Nevada. If we can all get behind Power to Parents here in Southern Nevada and Northern Nevada, we can make a big difference in this state and the way these children are taught.
Frank, I think you're next. Go ahead.
So you guys are talking about reform in the judicial system and things like that. I'm going to tell you right now, we have a sitting judge who, when he was a prosecutor, withheld evidence to prove that a man was innocent, and 800 miles away from Nevada when a murder was occurred that he served 20 years for. This is a yes or no question to everybody on the panel. Would you automatically remove that person and charge them?
We have a microphone on this end, please. Please ask your
We
question
have
again.
a judge sitting right now who, when he was a prosecuting attorney, withheld evidence that proved a man was innocent, and 800 miles away from Nevada when the murder that he was being tried for was committed. That man's recently been dealt with, but that judge is still sitting. Would you immediately remove them and charge them for that man's 20 years he served?
Removed and charged and make an example of him.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes.
Removing, yes. Elected.
Yes.
I would say yes, but there's a process for that. He would have to go through a process with the canon process that judges go through, but that is absolutely something I would be more than happy to kick off and see that it's followed through.
I also agree with that. There is a separation of powers between the three branches. First, it goes to the judicial side, Supreme Court, and then the governor would be involved with that. But yes, all branches have to work for the betterment of our community and our population.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with this particular case, but I supported over 150 conservative judges working with President Trump, and I have stopped liberal judges from serving here in the state of Nevada when I was in the United States Senate. So yeah, we need to find out more about this, but it is the governor's responsibility, if it's a district court judge, to take the disciplinary actions.
So yeah, I totally agree. I think if that judge is doing something that's immoral or illegal, then yeah, I think he should be removed and prosecuted. I come from Laughlin, and in Laughlin we have a justice of the peace who's elected, and I've dealt with him several times in dealing with the place that I lived at, Crown Point. And in a sense, he's correct. But I filed a complaint against the Judicial Commission of Nevada, and they've, in a sense, said that they give judges a lot of leeway in their decisions. So to try and remove a judge is not an easy task, But I think all judges in the state should be looked at in a ethical way and determine if they are able to be on that position or hold that position. There's a lot of corrupt judges, I'm sure.
Yeah, by the way, in Nevada, it's very difficult to remove judges. So as a state militia governor, you can Google it right now, NRS 412. State militia, which is permissible under the state constitution. As a governor, a state militia governor, I could impanel a grand jury. I can issue indictment. This is something different, folks. Let's try this nuclear option. The Democrat doesn't believe in checks and balances. There is no more bipartisanship. There is no more regular order. We gotta have a nuclear option as a Republican. And the state militia has special power. And it's not financed by the taxpayer. It's all volunteer. By the way, on the homeless, I will draft. State militia governor can draft people, like they can draft able-bodied men and women of the homeless. So
thank you, sir.
We can indict these judges. I have the power to indict. Thank you.
Obviously, folks, we need to follow our Constitution as we do any of these things. That's very, very important, right? We have to follow our Constitution. But this judge in my world, as me being I have the bully pulpit, people are going to hear a lot about this person and what they've done, okay? And that's how you put the pressure on as you follow the Constitution. If I may answer the previous question, is that okay? Just quickly on education.
Quickly.
2 seconds.
Quickly.
I put my money where my mouth is. I put $25,000 into the Education Freedom Campaign just to get done what you were mentioning earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question for each of you. What are the top 2 reasons of why each of you are running?
Can you get a microphone? Or we can start on that end too, that's fine. Start on that end, that's totally fine. Go ahead, sir.
It's not working.
There you go. Go ahead, sir.
The top 2 reasons? In my case, it's very, very simple. My parents came from Lebanon when I was 15 years old. I have lived the American dream, and I make the American dream possible for every person in this state. The second thing in the Bible, Luke 12:48, it says, "To whom much is given, much is expected," and that's the least I can do.
Okay, so Eddie Hamilton again. As a Republican governor facing a Democrat socialist monopoly, you must have a nuclear option. That is a state militia. That's why I'm running. I'm going to issue indictment against bureaucrats who cheated break the election, and the ballot, and I have a long-term plan to bring water to Lake Mead. This is something that the Corps of Engineers did in 1971. I will bring the Ohio River water that is being dumped into the Mississippi River going to the Gulf Coast. It's going to come to Lake Mead. That could be done by the Corps of Engineers under the MCART Act of 1961. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My main two issues are rent control and giving everybody in Nevada a decent cost of living, or give everybody a living wage, or being able to have everybody in Nevada be able to have a living wage.
Well, I'll tell you what got me into this race was the fact that we have a governor that shut down this state and put us in the position that we are today. So no vaccine mandates, no shutdowns. And the second thing I would do is go after the integrity of the election systems that we have here in this state. We can't govern if nobody believes in the results of the elections. And I've done it before when I was Secretary of State in 2000 with Gore versus Bush, and there was a real crisis of confidence in our election process. I solved that for the state of Nevada. Looks like I'm going to have to solve it again. But I will tell you this, nothing is more important than the educational system here in this state. We have to go after that every single day. Look at the problems that we have down here in Clark County. And if you're looking at this, it's a complex problem. And if you're smart and if you're good at leading, you take a complex problem and you break it down to smaller parts. And the key to that is to break down the school district that we have here to smaller parts and make sure that we have multiple school districts as opposed to just one.
Thank you, Dean. First off, I want to let you guys know I have been very blessed to live in Southern Nevada. I have done very well in business. I've had many, many opportunities for me and my family. It's been a great place to live. I also want you to know, because of that experience, I've been able to do two things I really like to do. I like to fix businesses, and I like to fix governments. And basically, governments are businesses. It's the things you do at government that turn the bit that your tax dollars come into us, we send you back services. I enjoy that. I know how to fix things. I've done it. You can look at North Las Vegas. You can look at all the career I've had. But the most important thing that took me from being that guy to the guy that wants to be governor, I see a socialist agenda coming across this country that I fear. And I want to make sure that Nevada does not fall into that realm. This is a big state if you look at landmass, but it's not a big state when it comes to population. We're as big as Orange County, California. If we can get a governor there who can lead us, be an example to us, and inspire us, we can make this state even better than it is now, and we can stop that socialism that I see coming into this state.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to stand for this because it's an important question. I got in this race because of our children, 100%. This educational system is broken. We are 51st in the nation and territories. Why did I just say that? Because I was corrected by a mom who told me when I said, how are we 51st? She said, Puerto Rico schools are better than us. In Las Vegas, 75 to 95% of our 4th through 8th graders are functionally illiterate. 90% of our high school seniors read at 8th grade level. We have crime that is just unacceptable in these schools. So I got in this race to fix our schools and fix our economy. How do we fix our economy? We make sure this state can never be closed again. The governor went too far. Emergency powers were extended for past a 2-year period, was never necessary. And so the two priorities I see in this state are absolutely the education system and then addressing our economy. Next, I'd say is probably be water and crime. But I'm the only one with those solutions. Thank you.
I got into this race because Nevada needs to be rewired as a whole. We're very wicked out here, and Isaiah 126 says we need to bring righteousness into this wicked city. So that's what I'm here to do. For sex trafficking, the homelessness, and the curriculum they're teaching in schools, they're teaching our children it's okay to go against what's there are, and that's not fair for our children. And the homelessness, it's really sad because most people who I talk to that are homeless, some were vets, some are children, and some they lost all their money due to gambling. They become addicted and they lost their money, they lost their homes. Essentially, they lost their family. So I came to basically rewire Nevada.
Yes, for 3 reasons. First one, I'm going to ask you a question. Are you happy with the way your political parties are taking you today, are taking our government? I advocate less government agencies, fewer government agencies. Government agencies are not innovative, they're not inventive. Secondly, put God back in the schools. Pledge of Allegiance every single day in every single school in the state of Nevada. And finally, people are responsible, and make people more responsible instead of taking what sounds like the easy way, let somebody else do it. Give it to the government. Government doesn't work, hadn't worked. I will fight against bigger government.
The reason why I'm running is because I don't have confidence in our government. I don't have confidence in the leaders that are in positions of such great impacts and influential positions. And I've been seeing this since I've been an adolescent, since a kid. I've been seeing and witnessing this. And it's time to put things into perspective and bring it as far as down to the people. It's all about the people, for the people, by the people, and with the people. It's not for our interests in positions as public servants. We're not celebrities. We're not monarchs. We're not kings here. We are just public servants serving the people. And that's why I'm coming out in the direction of our nation, where it's going and where it's headed for. And the state as well. We need a lot of work. And we got to start from the bottom and work our way up. And that's where I'm going to take place in positions as being your governor of Nevada.
I'm a candidate for governor because I'm the only one that can establish irreproachable public safety services, develop and efficiently maintain our public infrastructure, enrich our educational system, take care of our senior citizens. I'm the candidate for governor who will make this place safer for everyone. I'm the one candidate for governor who understands that we have to diversify our economy so that we're no longer at risk.
I am running for governor because I am uniquely qualified. Because I worked in government and worked in government bureaucracies for over 40 years and actually got things done. For over 40 years, career politicians have failed us, and that irritates me. I am running to basically improve three areas. First, security and safety. Do you know the crime rate in Las Vegas is double that of New York City? Unacceptable. We need to fix that, and we need to work and basically champion the election of strong DAs that puts criminals in jail. Once you have a safe environment, communities can live, work, and play. Then we need to focus on education. I'm big on education, and I'm going to change the whole state of education in Nevada by looking at a systems approach. And last, I'm going to create a job environment that we actually get the growth of jobs. I'm going to revolutionize government and politics in Nevada.
All right, if you're just joining us streaming online, these are all candidates running for governor of the great state of Nevada. We have about 10 more minutes of questions, and then they'll have a final statement, each candidate. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, my question is going to be directed at Mr. Gilbert, Mayor Lee, and Mr. Heller. Originally, my question was about schools, and you guys have kind of already went over that topic, so I'm going to change the topic and ask the three of you, what is your status on family court, and what do you think you can do to improve it?
I'll take that first. I wish I could say better things about family court. I really can't. It's a county operative that we have to deal with. The cities don't have family courts. We have municipal courts, but we don't have justice. We don't have family, and we don't have district. I will say that that family courts sometimes aren't fair to families. There's two sides to every single issue. I get that. As your governor, that is a legislative duty. The only thing that can happen is if you see something, you can voice out, you can say, you can spread, your thoughts. But basically, that is an elected official. It needs to be understood when you run for family court that you are going to be held up to the public. And we need to elect good people as family court judges. That's where basically it comes to. Unless we change the law and we go to the Missouri plan, we start taking and appointing people. But I don't know about taking away the right of the vote of the people for their judges. Thank you.
Well, I'm not an attorney, so but I have worked closely with some family court judges, and obviously there's room for improvement. I always say that the buck stops with the governor. Governor's responsibility is to sit down with some of these judges that have been duly elected and ask and work and solve the problems that they have in front of them. One of the things that I talk about, and I get off subject just a little bit, everybody has a court. We have drug court, we have family courts. What we don't have a court for are business. We need a business court here in this state. A court that will meet at any time, like they do in Delaware, to make sure that businesses in this state get the help and the support that they need. Not trying to get off topic, but I'm telling you, it's a critical need here in this state that we get a business court that will work closely with corporations, mom and pop shops here in this state, meet 24 hours, midnight, doesn't matter. I want these businesses to get the support and help that they need. And I think we can have a much stronger economy because of it.
Very simply, the family court system is broken. It's a disaster. Something needs to be done. Again, can't take things away from the voters, but there are bad judges that have been doing bad things for a long time. Families are broken up. It's not in the best interest of the child, although that's the smokescreen they use. And probably one of the demographics that's hit hardest are veterans. Veterans that come back, PTSD, any type of service-related injury that they're seeking help for or treatment for is then used against them. It's absolute abomination. I've worked on behalf of veterans. My father has a nonprofit. He's a retired lieutenant colonel with the Marine Corps, and he formed Nevada Veterans for Veterans. I've worked for that. We're doing over 60, probably 70 pro bono cases. And the Veterans Court, the family court continues to be a huge, huge problem across the community. But I see it targeting veterans a lot, and it's something that's to be totally redone. Basically burnt down and start over again. It's a terrible system.
One thing I want to add on that, I would agree with that. I'm a father who has been through family court, and as recently as a few months ago, my child's mother violated the court order, sent me a text saying, "I don't care, I'm going to violate it." I went to my attorney and said, "Do we take this back to court?" And he's like, "They're not going to do anything." So we have a court order stating such, such, and such. And I'm like, she should go to jail for violating the thing, that we agreed upon. And it just doesn't seem like with the family courts, anybody's held accountable for their, poor decisions or violating the court order.
Could have time for 2 more questions. Go ahead.
So just to add on to that before I ask my question, I grew up with an abusive mother, and in the family courts, they prioritized the mother before anything else. CPS was called multiple times, and yet my father had no jurisdiction. I can proudly say that I lived with my father now for 6 years, and that I have gotten out of that situation, but we had to fight so hard, and I value the importance of doing so on your behalf. Thank you. I also didn't want to stray too far off of the topic of education. I was incredibly disserviced by CISILAC's shutdown, and I lost my junior and senior year of high school. I would like to say that, Ed Bridges especially, you said that it was not a government issue, but at what point does it become a government issue? We are already 51st, apparently, in the nation, and, is it before or after we become further and further behind other nations in our education systems that it becomes a priority for you?
First of all, hold on, sir. Let's get you a microphone. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
First of all, I'm not sure I heard all the innuendos of your question, but the education system should focus on reading, writing, and arithmetic. I don't care if my child's taught to put on a condom or not. That's not our aspect for public education. They've gone astray. Reading and writing, and a person can do just about anything else. Most of them are graduating now. We my company in Washington, D.C., took a survey of the employees who had graduated from the public school system. They couldn't even read or write at the 5th grade level. Thank you.
To be clear, that was not what you said earlier, and you are now contradicting yourself. You said that it was not a government issue. So what is a government issue in education then, if I would ask you to clarify?
Ultimately, and until about 1910, it was in this country the obligation of the parent. And they got together in local communities and built their system. I still think that education is not a function of government. It's a function of local communities, and it's a responsibility of the parent.
Okay, we have time for one more question, then there'll be closing statements. Go ahead.
This question is for Mr. Gilbert, Mayor Lee, Senator Heller, and Mr. Beck. Many veterans come back from serving our country and find themselves in situations where they can't find jobs, where they're having difficulty in the community. Do you have a BDR that you would put forward, or an idea on a BDR that you would put forward to help veterans get jobs and get better situated in our great state?
So again, I've had to face all these problems because I am a disabled veteran. So I've gone to veteran services to try and have them help me. One example in homelessness, if you go to the veteran services, I said, hey, I'm homeless. I've been homeless for a couple of days. What services do I have available to me? Well, how long have you been homeless? 2 days. You have to be homeless for 8 months in order to qualify for those benefits. So a lot of times the benefits don't even help the servicemen that are coming back because they don't qualify or they don't, we make it so hard.
So what is your solution, sir? Not the problem. We all know the problem.
So what we need to do is look at each type of service that we provide to veterans and see what we can do to make that better. I mean, the bottom line, in a sense, with everything is money. We just need the money. So in my opinion, I would tax casinos at a much higher rate in Nevada, and tax the mining industry too. But for veterans, though, I mean, there's all kinds of things we can do. We can spend a lot more money than we have been on our veterans.
Paul, I think my work and effort with veterans here in the state of Nevada and my time as a senior member of the Veterans Committee in the United States Senate. But to give you a couple of things, I helped establish a brand new VA clinic in Pahrump. I passed legislation that expanded and improved the Reno VA Medical Center. I was the one that got the funding necessary for the new veterans home in Washoe County. And finally, I passed legislation to improve job training and apprenticeship programs for veterans transitioning into civilian life. So having said that, the fact that we were able to pass that at the federal level, my job is to follow up with that. My job is to follow up to see what the federal government is doing, and if I don't think it's adequate, my job is to go to our delegation and say, hey, we got to improve in these particular areas. So my work and my effort over the years is to make sure that there is a transition period that will help veterans as they do get into civilian life.
Thank you. In North Las Vegas, we have 40,000 people that have something to do with the veteran, the enlisted, the spouse, the dependent. We're the most patriotic city in the state right here. We have been teaching in North Las Vegas the students for the jobs that are here now: construction, gaming, tourism, hospitality. These veterans that come in to our community, North Las Vegas, we are doing everything we can to get them involved in the new businesses. We're diversifying the economy of Southern Nevada right now. We have a Veterans Commission that's been put on together. We work with veterans there. We also just put a career center in North Las Vegas. It says when you come in, you bring your plans, go over here. We tell you how to hire people. We go out to Nellis Air Force Base. We say, here's where we want you. There is a group of people right now that have 21st century jobs that are coming into this community. We are dying. We are doing anything we can to get those veterans. They have been trained, they're smart, and they work very hard, and we want those people. So we have already been doing it at the city level. We will do that at the state level. These are a big success for us in North Las Vegas if we can keep those people here, and when they retire, not moving somewhere else.
So I've spent some considerable time on this issue. There's 227,000 vets in Nevada. 1/4 of them have some sort of disability. Only about half of are enrolled in veterans programs. 1,400 are homeless. Vets' unemployment rate is about double that of civilians. So what would I do specifically to address these statistics? So number one would be better info sharing between the groups that work with vets to avoid duplicating services. I put forth a BDR that would improve that awareness of what services are available to them: individual and family counseling, anxiety, depression, medical and mental health care, housing, homelessness issues, physical and drug rehab. And then the other thing would be to get rid of the fear that vets who seek mental health will be stigmatized, get more consistency with their health care and their accessibility, avoid overprescribing medications. But most importantly, this BDR I would put forth would be have my veteran head of Veterans Affairs, visit all 14 Nevada Vets facilities every month, report back to me, and I would require every vet client that receives services to fill out a very short survey regarding the quality of the service he or she received, so we would know where the weak spots in the system are, and we would address those spots immediately. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, panel, for the questions. Also, just a reminder that any personal statements by anybody made today do not necessarily reflect veterans in politics and their opinions or thoughts. So now this is the part where each candidate, please don't take any more than a minute or so, and just make a final statement. Why should people vote for you?
Just a real short story about a veteran I know. He was a professional baseball player, championship boxer for the Pacific Fleet, and he was a pro football player for the San Francisco 49ers. He fought in World War II and in the Korean War and was wounded, 2 Purple Hearts. He had a Chinese guy jump in the foxhole with him one night. Obviously, that gentleman won. He came home to his wife. Of course, the wife said that he was a changed man. They never slept together after that. Why? Because he broke clocks in the middle of the night. Still reliving that night over and over and over. He suffered from PSD. Finally, when he was in his 70s, he went to anger management. That man was my father. I understand better than anyone what veterans need and how to take care of them. 23 years in the military, I will take care of veterans.
Thank you for listening today. My name is William Doc Walls. Again, I'm a candidate for governor because I'm free-thinking, compassionate, independent, fiscally responsible, and socially responsive. I understand that we have to establish irreproachable public safety services, and we have to do that in a way that empowers our police but doesn't overburden our police. We have to diversify our economy, and that's critical and important. We can't be solely reliant on casinos and mining and the automobile industry. We have to utilize those industries to help build medium-sized and small businesses so that those small businesses can take their products, goods, and services and introduce them into the global stream of economy and bring new jobs and opportunity back to Nevada. It's so critical and important that we learn to work together and get along here in this state, and I'm here to help do that.
My closing statement is very simple. I am for the people, by the people, with the people. I'm a person in ground. I interpret people's pains, wants, needs, and leadership. They address all the issues over to me. I interpret the issues, and solutions come to play, not further into problems. That's number one. Number two is I bring people together. I'm very, very diverse within the great state of Nevada. I have diversities throughout, all of us, Americans. And that's the key factor here, is bringing it in together. United States of America, not the divided states of America. And that's what I'm gonna bring home here to our great state of Nevada. And I'm gonna bring a lot of industries and growth and prosperity like no other. We will not be reliant on the casinos. We will have manufacturing industries and many other interpretations for our children's future. And thirdly, the education factor needs to be uplifted to the first or second rank within the United States. There's no excuse for the 49th, being 49th in the nation as far as where we are today. So I'm gonna bring it home, I'm gonna bring it in, and I'm passionate, I'm a patriot, and I love this country, I love this state.
Thank you,
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Two God-given documents in my life, the Bible and the U.S. Constitution, both God-inspired. Put it back in our schools. Why are we ashamed of it? We shouldn't be. Shame on us. I'm going to advocate, and the Independent American Party advocates, protect and defend the Second Amendment, defend our borders, protect free speech, oppose critical race theory in Nevada schools, CRT. No state tax money to illegals, defeat the Nevada ERA proposed constitutional amendment, and no state-funded abortions. If you don't think private enterprise can do it better, government has thrown money at problems and more bigger organizations don't work. Go right over here on North Las Vegas Boulevard and see what the Vets for Americans, or Veterans Village, is about. It's a privately funded vet protective agent. Thank you.
I'll make this short and simple. It's no secret I'm not your typical candidate. I don't see things from a typical political point of view. I see things from a more spiritual point of view. So I'm here strictly out of obedience to God. He speaks a word, I do that word, right? I have a heart for change, a heart for people. I'm not here for ego. I'm not here for self-promotion. I'm here for strictly change. I've been born and raised in Vegas. I've seen both the good and bad side of Vegas. I've seen how Vegas, the streets can demonize people, victimize people, and we really need to change.
Thank you. First and foremost, I'm accountable to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and we the people. That's what this is about for me. It's not about me, it's about we the people. It's not my campaign, it's our campaign. I've spent the last year and a half going across the state, all 17 counties. It's very simple. The people are done with mandates, government overreach, emergency powers. They want election integrity. They want fixing the schools, crime, water, surplus or shortage. Have answers for that. The economy, homelessness, and gun control. I believe I'm the most uniquely qualified, and it's also at the same time disingenuous to say that no one up here understands how to diversify this state. Mayor Lee, Guy Nora, these guys are. It's been an absolute pleasure being around the state with them. But we know it needs to be done. I know it needs to be done. So it's unfair to say that there's no one else up here that's qualified. Most importantly, though, is listening to the people. At the end of the day, it's not about these public servants. They have destroyed this state. The career politicians have run the state into the ground, and we need a father first, a businessman to step up and do what's right, and that's exactly what I'll do.
Thank you. First off, I'm very excited to see this many people have one thing in common. We want to change the direction of this state. We do not want Steve Sisolak there anymore. And I'm very proud that everyone is standing up saying that as a group here. Most of the questions that you asked me today have been either handled in North Las Vegas or we are doing that now. When you have John Lee, that's your governor, he's going to be, you don't hire him to figure out what's going on today. You want to know where we're going to be 10 years from now. That's the kind of leader you need. Somebody that you can look up and say, where are we going? I have the skill set, I have the energy, I have the experience. Now, there's some other experiences at this table I don't have. I'm not a seasoned attorney. I'm not a national figure, who's worked in that realm. But I know I can build people around me who can help me build North Nevada back up again. So I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here.
And thank you to Veterans in Politics. Thanks for having this. I want to thank all the panelists also for the questions and the opportunity to really talk about veterans and veterans issues. Yeah, we have a lot of issues in front of us. Obviously, the economy, education, and safe neighborhoods. We talk about that all the time, but today specifically is about our veterans. And we had, last Sunday, I went to a Veterans Memorial at the Elks Lodge in Washoe County. And I'll tell you, my father, my brother, and both of my brother-in-laws all were in the Navy. And when they came home, they had an attitude, and it was always about faith, family, and freedom. And that's what they brought to me, and they discussed. This is what our veterans represent here across this country. I sat on the Veterans Committee. I've had thousands of veterans come into my office, not only here in the state of Nevada, but across the country, to handle the issues that are most important to them. And that's exactly what I did for the time that I spent in the United States Senate on that particular committee. So faith, family, and freedom, thank you for what you represent, and to every veteran in this state, and for what they've done for our freedoms. Thank you.
So I think I bring a unique perspective to this run because I am a disabled veteran and I've had to deal with the issues that most veterans deal with. So I don't represent a business. I don't represent corporations. I represent just regular people. The time between appointments needs to be lowered. There needs to be more medical clinics in each rural area. There needs to be more doctors available. I had to get new medication, and it took me 2 months just to talk to a doctor because I live in Laughlin and I have to talk to a doctor in Las Vegas. So we need to improve the services. So when I talk to the political people that are in charge right now of the county, the state, even Congress and the Senate, I don't get any help from them. So as much as they say that they've solved the problems, they haven't.
Eddie Hamilton, thank you for the invite. I hope I can earn your vote and your endorsement. I'm running as a state militia governor. A well-regulated militia is approved in the Constitution. It is said that militia is white supremacist. Do I look like a white supremacist here? So we want to reclaim the word militia. State militia is important. Any Republican governor will be DOA in Carson City. Okay? Because we're doing against the Soviet communist Democrats who don't believe in democracy anymore. You must have a state militia. It's the only nuclear option to do that. I also ran for governor once before against Brian Sandoval as the conservative alternative. I came in second among 4 Republicans. In addition to that, I'm an investor. I'm a manufacturing engineer. I've built car assembly plants, truck plants, transmission plants. I know how to build factories. I know how to diversify. I know how to build microchip plants in Nevada. More importantly, I can bring water here. Nobody has talked about water. We need water. No, another thing, I want to be a national security governor. You know that a nuclear war is possible. Area 18, 100 miles from here, we used to build the Davy Crockett tactical battlefield nuclear weapon. As governor, I want to build that again because the Russians have tactical nuclear weapons. We don't have it anymore. So I want to be a national security governor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. You're veterans, and I thank you for everything you've done for us and for our country, first and foremost. You're also voters. You are going to vote for a chief executive officer of your state. That's what you're going to do when the time comes. I'm not a politician. If you want results like you've had the last 30 to 40 years, keep voting the same way. I'm a businessman. I solve problems. I look at things, I'm very competent at solving problems. I look at complex situations and I resolve them. That's what we're going to be looking for here when the time comes for our very complex states, which you heard all of us mention. Just one quick thing. In 2016, we gave our country a businessman. And I think things turned out pretty darn good. So in 2022, let's do this for Nevada. Thank you.
All right, just a few quick announcements. If you want to take some pictures, I was told please do it outside. We're going to have to clear the room in a couple minutes for lunch for employees. But I want to thank all the candidates for being here and the panel. Thank you very much.